India is one of the most crowded countries on earth, but not all who call India home are Indian. There are, says the government, millions of infiltrators. In the state of Assam, a sliver of India squeezed between Bangladesh and Bhutan, those infiltrators are being identified. The state government has put together a list of those it views as legitimate citizens, but 4 million of the state's 31 million people aren't on it.
But people whose name has been dropped are worried. They are definitely worried.
The list is creating disunity in one of the most religiously diverse parts of the country. More than 1 billion people live in India, speaking dozens of different languages and practicing many different religions. Hinduism dominates, but there are millions of Christians, Sikhs and Buddhists too. And India has 170 million Muslims, almost as many as Pakistan. In Assam, they make up more than a third of the population. They feel the list is targeted at them.
সিহঁতে ভয় পাইছে লিষ্টত নাম নাহিলে মানুহ কৈ আছে বিদেহী সেইকাৰণে কান্দি আছে সিহঁতে সেইকাৰণে নাম আহা নাই সেইকাৰণে সিহঁতে কান্দি আছে.
The National Register of Citizens lists those who can prove they or their parents were in India before March 1971. That was when Bangladesh became independent from Pakistan. The new country was impoverished. Hundreds of thousands fled, many across the border into India's Assam. India's government says those that came then, or since, should go back to Bangladesh. But Bangladesh doesn't view those missing from the NRC list as Bangladeshi. It won't take them. And most missing from the list anyway say their Indian roots predate 1971. In power at both the state level in Assam and nationally is the Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been accused of stirring up ethnic and religious divisions to shore up his political base. Next year, he and his party face an election. Some see the Assam citizenship list as a way of reminding Hindus right across India that the government is on their side and will no longer appease minorities.
This country has seen a very peculiar politics of appeasement. And anything which garners the votes from the minority community means appease them at the cost of national interest.
The uncertainty in Assam is causing tension. Security forces are on high alert. Although those missing from the NRC list can appeal, many fear they don't have the documents to prove they are Indian and will end up stateless. The future is one they fear.
So tell me what you think about the list.
Talk to Al Jazeera, travel to Assam to hear from some of those missing from the list and challenge those behind the exercise on why it is so necessary. In the remote village of Langia, well over half the people are Muslim, and many, perhaps most, have just found out they are not on the NRC list. Village elders have called a crisis meeting to discuss how people should best mount their appeals. Sharifa Khatun is among those whose families are being called infiltrators. She's worried.
Thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera. Can you tell me first of all how many people roughly in this village are not on the list?
500 মান হবো 500 মান হবো এনআরসি হোৱা নাই মানুহ এই অডত আধা মানুহৰ আহিছে আধা মানুহৰ নাই নাম আহা নাই আধা মানুহৰ নাম আহিছে এনআরসিত আধা মানুহৰ নাম এনআরসিত নাই এতে তো গাঁৱৰ মানুহে দুখ পাইছে দুখ লাগিছে যে হিহঁতৰ নাম আহিছে এনআরসিত আমালোকৰ নাম আহা নাই তেওঁলোকে দুখ পাইছে হয়তো বৰ দুখ লাগিছে আমালোকৰো নাম আহা নাই আমালোকৰো দুখ লাগিছে হিহঁতে কান্দি থাকে এনআরসিত নাম আহা নাই সেইকাৰণে কান্দিও আছে বহুত মানুহে
Are you on the list?
মোৰ নামটো লিষ্টত নাই মোৰ নামটো লিষ্টত নাই মোৰ ফাদাৰ নামটো আহা নাই সেইকাৰণে মোৰ নামটো আহা নাই মই বহুত দুখ পাইছোঁ মোৰ ফাদাৰো সদায় কান্দি থাকে দুখ পাইছে এনআৰচিত নাম অহা নাই সেইকাৰণে দুখ পাইছে মোৰ ফাদাৰো কান্দি থাকে সদায়
Why are people here crying? What are they worried will happen?
সিহঁতে ভয় পাইছে লিষ্টত নাম নাহিলে মানুহে কৈ আছে বিদেশী সেইকাৰণে কান্দি আছে সিহঁতে সেইকাৰণে নাম অহা নাই সেইকাৰণে সিহঁতে কান্দি আছে ভয় পাই আছে
And being labelled a foreigner, what would that mean?
বিদেশী হ'লেতো বাংলাদেশী ক সেইটোৱেই সিহঁতে কান্দি থাকে জেলত পঠাব সেইকাৰণে কান্দি থাকে
There's an appeals process. People can still get on the list at a later stage. Have you got confidence in that?
মোৰতো আহা আছে মোৰ বাপেকৰ বায়নচাৰীৰ মোৰ নাম বননচাৰীৰ নাম সবেই গোটেই কেইটাৰ নাম আহিবলৈ আহা আছে সেইকাৰণে আশা কৰিছোঁ যে নামটো আহিবলৈ এনআৰচিত আহিছে 7 বছৰৰ এটা ল'ৰা নামটো খুশনুৰ নাম আৰু এটা 5 বছৰৰ ল'ৰা নে ছোৱালী খালি সৰু বাচ্চাটোৰ নাম আহিছে বাপেকৰ নামও অহা নাই মাকৰ নামও অহা নাই খালি সৰু বাচ্চাটোৰ নাম আহিছে
An hour's drive from Langia is the town of Nagawan. There, another family is worried. The family has Indian passports, but they don't seem to be enough. Hasabun Nessa says she thinks she's 103 and has always lived in Assam, but she's not on the list.
নোৱাৰিব কিয় পঠাব পাৰিব বাপ দাদা ইয়াত মৰি গৈছে পুৰুষ মৰি গৈছে আকৌ মই খেদিব কেনেকৈ মই পৰিয়াল কোন কাক উলিয়াব বাংলাদেশী বুলি
Strangely, Hasabun Nessa's son's name is on the list, but not his wife's, and other names are missing too.
Can I ask first how surprised you were that both your mother and your wife were not on the list?
I'm surprised because we are the original inhabitant of this land, Assam, and our generations, spread back to the Ahom age, the kingdom, and so our generations are here. They're born and they have died. So it is quite surprising that our name has come as a foreigners. Which is ultimately that translate to as when name is not there in NRC. Or the voter list comes, so that means translated as the foreigners.
So your mother was born here?
Yes.
Your wife clearly was born here?
Well, she's just recent, she's born here.
And yet they're not on the list. How does that make them and you feel?
It feels very odd because it doesn't make any sense. As we know that if somebody is not Indian or of the nation of a particular country, a citizen of a country, he got to either come from different country or they got to have a different, their parental, the lineage of the parents different than Indian. But all of a sudden you find yourself as India. It's strange.
What do you think the reason is that they're not on the list? They've got passports, haven't they?
I don't say that there may not be foreigners here, but the thing is that originally the whole concept of having a doubtful voters or foreign sense of foreigner thing like it is against. Even though initially it was born out to be against Bangladeshi or something, but ultimately translate to, boils down to the fact that it is targeted to the Muslims.
What are the potential consequences of being found to be a non-citizen, as so far your wife and mother are?
Only one word can be described by this: is disastrous. There's going to be a huge disaster on this. They won't be able to get passports.
They won't be able to work legally here.
That's right. They will not be able to go for higher education, and their normal day-to-day life will be affected.
And their children, would they be able to go to school and those sorts of things?
No, there will be a whole generation down the line will be affected by this. They're going to ghettoize the people. Simple. They'll make a ghetto. Like what happened to Hitler's this Nazis. This is the ultimate idea. It's a sort of a state of asphyxia. What do you call it? Make them they will not be unable to breathe economically.
That's very strong to compare it to Hitler and
This is
ghetto.
the worst case scenario in terms of apartheid or whatever you call it. Yeah. This will be like genocide, indirect genocide. We don't deny that foreigners should be out from here, definitely. If they are not the citizen of this country, they should not be here. We don't say that there is no foreigners. There may be some foreigners, but this is not the foolproof system to weed out the foreigners like this.
Does a certain community feel that it's targeted at them?
Yes, it is whole community. If you ask any Muslim community, the sentence will be yes, it is targeted to our community. The majority of the cases are Muslims. If you go to the court, anywhere you'll find the people, those who are looking for the documents, they are trying to straighten out the documents and having a document legalized. They're all Muslims. You can see anywhere.
Why do you think they would want to target the Muslim community?
I'm not talking from my side even. This is a normal feeling for all the Muslims here. They feel that way, that this is the extension of the prevailing situation all over India. This ultimate aim is to just reduce the Muslim population, of their privileges, and that can only happen if they make some scheme of this sorts, where the Muslim influence or population is curtailed. That's what we believe. That's what is happening.
Is the appeals process clear to you?
But no, I think there is no defined guidelines probably on this. They're very confusing. People are not, even people, those who found themselves in the doubtful voter list, they are not clear that what they got to do, unless they approach some lawyer and pay some hefty fees. Any normal person, they do not know what they're supposed to do. It should have been very clear from the beginning, either from the NRC office or from the election office.
With 4 million people's names missing from the NRC list, a huge appeals process is now underway. Most people are too poor to hire lawyers, but some human rights lawyers are getting involved anyway.
When you saw that number, 4 million people left off the list, was that number a surprise to you?
Well, it was surprising for me. I was not expecting that 4 million people should be dropped. But then the fact remains that this is only a draft, not final NRC. So there was one list earlier which came in December 31st, 2017, and this is the second. They are calling it as a complete draft, but at the end of the day, it is a draft. No one is rendered stateless, and no one will be called foreigners after this. This is only a draft.
Nevertheless, it's caused a lot of worry, hasn't it?
Well, people whose name has been dropped are worried. They are definitely worried, but because there is a process, there is an opportunity called claims where people can reapply. So that process had to be made fair and transparent and judicious to quell this fear. The application forms are little complex, and the entire process is very scientific, very stringent. So obviously it will have to be little complex. I mean, if it was easier, then a lot of wrong people would have been snaked into it. So there is no doubt that for poor people, for illiterate people, to fill up these forms is difficult. So that is where the role of civil society comes in.
Are you confident that the draft list has been put together with the best intentions, that those administering it wanted to get as many people who were legitimately entitled to be on that list? Or do you think in some cases they've kind of let a few slip off for politics?
The intention, this draft is here because of the Supreme Court's order. The Supreme Court is definitely well intended, but on the ground, because they were told that the verification process is over, so it is obvious that the draft should have come. And on the ground, a lot of people who should have been in the list are not in the list. There is an army officer who tells me that he was told by the verification officer that his verification was okay, his name will be there, but his name is not there. Most of the people who have been dropped, half the family is there, half the family is not there. The parents' names are there, the children's names are not there. So that obviously raises a questions. I mean, that was verification over? And in certain cases, the legacy person is not there, the children's are there.
That certainly sounds as though the whole process has been rushed. They've got a draft list out too quickly. People with passports really should be on the list, shouldn't they? And yet they're not all.
But people, most of the people that I have come across, everyone has document and they should have been in the list. Like you say, when passport holder have been dropped, so definitely they should have been there. And why they are not there, I think the NRC authority should explain why they are not there. When the Supreme Court ordered the NRC, there was a lot of enthusiasm, because I have toured almost entire Assam, particularly the areas dominated by religious minorities. So there was a lot of enthusiasm, because one particular community, the Muslim community, has always been branded as Bangladeshis, and they have been persecuted, abused all these years, all these decades as Bangladeshis. So when the Honorable Supreme Court ordered NRC, there was enthusiasm, there was hope that finally this NRC will put a full stop to these politicizations of the harassment, of the abuse. And when the BJP,
so they welcomed it.
They welcomed it. They welcomed it. They are still welcoming. They are still hopeful that the process is monitored by the Supreme Court. But when the BJP came to power, they came to power riding on the sentiment, of hate mongering, saying that 35 constituencies are dominated by Bangladeshi Muslims. So since then, the fear is there that on the ground there might be bias.
At the end of this process, what could happen? Could people be kicked out of the country, in theory?
I don't think, because there is no deportation treaty. After the final list comes out, people will be able to go to the Foreigners Tribunal. The NRC will not render anyone stateless. They cannot brand anyone as foreigner. That will be done by a judicial body, a quasi-judicial body, which is called Foreigners Tribunal. What happens after this, the government of India have to decide. The Honorable Supreme Court has to decide.
I mean, it's an extreme comparison, but it's a comparison nonetheless. What's happened in Myanmar and in Rakhine State, the Rohingya who had to leave that area, again, nothing formal happened at a government level to say you've got to leave or to kick them out, but we all know what's happened there. A million Rohingya have fled into Bangladesh. In theory, and I don't want to be alarmist, but in theory, could that happen here?
I believe in the idea of India. We are a very vibrant democracy. Our judiciary is very vibrant. Our judiciary is independent. We are not a banana republic like Myanmar. So I sincerely hope that nothing as of such like Rohingyas will happen in India, because the Supreme Court will protect people. The majority people in this country are outraged about this, although it is a draft. The majority people of this country is outraged. So we are a completely different country from Myanmar.
The Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, is in government in India both nationally and recently at state level in Assam too. The party, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is accused by many of sowing division in India, pandering to its Hindu base, with political attacks targeted at minorities. The ill-thought-out Assam NRC list is, say critics, an example. Sudhanshu Mittal is a spokesman for the party.
Why you think this list is necessary?
Well, any self-respecting nation must identify who are not nationals of that country. We've had a huge amount of infiltration from Bangladesh, and it is time that we identify who are not Indian nationals.
But are you going about this in the right way? I mean, the number of people in that state that are not on the citizenship list, 4 million as it stands, seems remarkable.
No, but you have to look at the historicity. See, till 71, when the Bangladesh war started, that's the cut-off point. 24th March is the cut-off point. People who came because of the civil war in Bangladesh, they were expected to go back after the liberation of Bangladesh, but they haven't. They have stuck on there. So it is time that they are identified and isolated.
Isolated, but what will happen to them? You say isolated, that's a pretty harsh word, but they're being put into, well, there are now thousands in deportation camps.
No, isolation doesn't mean physical isolation. Look, can you allow foreign nationals to influence the polity of a state? No.
But these are people, in some cases, who have been there for generations.
They have been there for generations, but should they be voting for the, should they be altering the politics of Assam? No. These are not Indian nationals, and if they're not Indian nationals, they have no business to be on the voters list. You have to defranchise them.
But how reliable is that voters list? Because we're hearing stories that one brother is on the list and one brother isn't, that a mother is and a son isn't. I mean, it's chaotic.
When you undertake an exercise of this magnitude, there are always exceptions. Now, using exceptions to discredit the rule, I think that's preposterous. The norm is, it is a good list. There are exceptions. There may be cases where it has not been properly done. There is an opportunity. People will get it done. That's not the issue. See, the opposition doesn't come from there. The opposition comes from the fact that people who are not Indian nationals have finally been identified. See, look at Assam. It saw such a bloody agitation, the Assam movement in the late 70s and early 80s. How many people lost their lives because they said Assam's demography cannot change, Assam's polity cannot change, Assam's culture cannot be changed by foreigners.
But this seems to be a picking on Assam state to put together a citizenship list that's not being done anywhere else in the country. It seems targeted, frankly, at Muslims.
Why do you call it Muslims? The list today deals with Bangladeshi infiltrators. These are
The
people
vast majority of those 4 million are Muslims.
So be it. How does it matter? Why should everything be seen from the prism of religion only?
But an awful lot of people think the BJP, your party, is using this as a way to whip up nationalism in the run-up to next year's national election.
This
and
country,
this is a very helpful way for you to remind voters India-wide that you will crack down on infiltrators, as you call them.
We are committed to, yes. This country has seen a very peculiar politics of appeasement. And anything which garners the votes from the minority community means appease them. At the cost of national interest? What is the national interest? Give me one country which does not want to identify who are citizens of that country and who are not citizens of the country. I'm not talking about pushing them back to Bangladesh right now. I am saying this is a process which says these are not people who are citizens of the country. Now, once they are identified as not being citizens of the country, there are consequences which will follow. You will strip them of the citizenship first. You will defranchise them. Then there are rules governing foreign nationals.
And then they're stateless. Bangladesh won't take them back. We've seen a similar situation. You know, one hopes it won't go anywhere near this, but the Rohingya crisis is fresh in everyone's mind. Are we not going to have a situation where thousands, millions potentially, of people are rendered stateless?
They may be stateless. There will be solutions to their problems. But that will not entitle them to become voters in the voter. They cannot alter the demography or the polity of Assam. No way. In fact, why just Assam? In this country, should you let foreigners alter the politics of India? No. Demography of India? No. Foreigners are foreigners at the end of the day. And every government is duty bound to identify who are not foreigners. And every nation has a responsibility of upholding your own constitution. Your constitution does not permit foreigners to become Indian citizens. There is a due process. There is a Citizenship Act. And anybody who qualifies to be a citizen out of that Citizenship Act may become a citizen. But those who are not qualified to be citizens, just because they have illegally entered, should they be permitted to vote? No. Should they be called Indian citizens? No. I mean, that is what is done everywhere. What is unique about this? Nothing but the so-called secularist lobby of this country would like everybody to believe that no, it is directed towards Muslims. It's a perverse mindset. See, the numbers don't matter. I mean,
they matter to the people involved.
Allow me. See, it may be 4 million, it may be 3 million, it may be 2 million.
And each one of those is a person, a life who lives here in India.
That is okay. That's fine. People who are illegal immigrants must be identified as illegal immigrants. The numbers will give you the enormity of the situation. And then you will be competent to deal with the enormity of the situation. But as I said, stripping them of the citizenship doesn't matter. There's no number game involved in that.
When you strip someone of citizenship, you strip them of certain rights as well, don't you?
So what rights?
Well, voting rights for one.
Voting rights. So should you give voting rights to somebody who's not a citizen? Are you saying that India's polity must be guided by people who are not Indians?
They consider themselves Indian. That's my point. They've been there for an awful long time, and many generations in some cases.
So if people who are legitimate Indians, and if wrongly have been identified as not being Indians, that will get corrected. What is the panic for that? This is not the last word. There is a whole mechanism of things where their bona fide can be proved. As I said, don't use the exceptions to disprove the rule. No. A rule is a rule. A norm is a norm. Exceptions are being used to discredit the norm. That's not fair.
People in Assam state have until the end of September to appeal their exclusion from the NRC list. Those whose appeals fail then risk losing the rights citizenship brings and could be made stateless. To the south of Bangladesh, the consequences of labelling hundreds of thousands of people foreigners has led to what the United Nations top human rights official has called a textbook case of ethnic cleansing. No one is yet suggesting a repetition to Bangladesh's north, but what is happening in Assam has similarities, and that, here, makes people scared.